Hello, everyone. I am Michael Steelman, Director of Alumni Career Management and Professional Networks for William & Mary. It is my pleasure to welcome you to day one of William & Mary's 5th Annual Professional Development Week. This year's programming is intended for the whole William & Mary community of students, alumni, faculty, staff, parents, and friends. We will cover a variety of topics relevant to people at all points of their career journey and our discussions are rooted in the National Association of Colleges and Employers career competencies, career and self-development, communication, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. We are truly grateful for the continued engagement of our William & Mary community to support one another's professional success. And I want to acknowledge and thank all of the William & Mary Professional Network's leaders, speakers, and William & Mary colleagues who provide the guidance, support, and expertise to make this week possible. I'd like to specifically thank Kelly O'Shaughnessy, Associate Director of Career Engagement, who partnered with me this year to curate a week of relevant topics and learning objectives for our William & Mary community. We began today by focusing on the importance of growing your brand and the tools to help you get from wherever you are in your journey to a dream career. Now we are about to take a deep dive into LinkedIn and learn the tricks to recession-proof your career. Before I turn things over to our guest presenter, I just have a few technology items to cover. Today's session is being recorded and will notify all registrants once the recording is available. Questions are welcome, and we will address as many questions as time will allow. If you roll over the bottom portion of the Zoom window, you should see a Q&A icon appear. Please use that feature to submit your questions. We will monitor the Q&A and chat throughout the hour. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Jeremy Schiffeling. Jeremy has devoted his career to helping others succeed in theirs, from teaching kindergarten in Brooklyn to recruiting top students for Teach for America to leading the education marketing at LinkedIn. He's touched the lives of millions of people at every stage of their career journeys. Along the way, he's published the best-selling LinkedIn book on Amazon, served as a career coach for military veterans and MBA students at the University of Michigan, and produced the most viewed video on LinkedIn's history. He currently leads marketing at Khan Academy and shares his thoughts on Break Into Tech, a site for anyone who wants to launch a tech career. On a personal note, I first got to know Jeremy over 10 years ago when he was working on developing LinkedIn's alumni tool. I've learned so much from him over the years, and I'm delighted he is able to share his knowledge and expertise with our William & Mary community as part of this year's Professional Development Week. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. And right back at you, Michael. You guys are in for a treat because I don't know if you know this, but Michael, your alumni career guru, is one of the definitive career gurus in the world. He is more plugged into LinkedIn and all the trends in the space than pretty much anyone I've ever met. And he is now working hard for you every single day. So please, please, please give him and Kelly and your entire team lots of love in the chat for bringing you this session today. And as Michael said, it's definitely a team effort. So please thank Kelly, thank Alex, thank Michael, thank everyone in the chat. And if you're having any trouble using chat, because I'm not seeing any chats coming in, please let us know in the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get that fixed. But yeah, let me know that you're out there, that you can hear this. Chat something in or put in something in the Q&A. Let us know that you can interact. Okay, that being said, a little bit more about your speaker today. So I have had this incredibly lucky career, which is that I've gone from being a kindergarten teacher to working in the tech sector to ultimately, being a big tech guru at all these companies. But the one place that really has changed the course of my career is none other than LinkedIn. And that's because as someone who thought he knew a lot about the hiring process, going to work for LinkedIn was like having a cold splash of water right in the face, reminding me about all the things behind the scenes, like the algorithm, the recruiters, the incentives that I barely knew at all. And so what I want to share with you is the same thing I've shared with amazing students and amazing alums across the world, which is all the insider secrets to land a job that you love. But I have to warn you, this is not going to be your standard webinar where you're just sort of sitting back, turning off your brain, going on autopilot. Instead, I'm going to ask three big things of you. First of all, I'm going to ask you, even if you're an alum, to go back into that student mode of answering pop quizzes. But unlike the pop quizzes you might have been asked as a William & Mary student, these ones are all focused on getting you exactly where you want to be, which is that dream job. Number two, as a former teacher myself, I fundamentally believe that the best way to learn anything is to actually do it, to build it into your muscle memory. So please pull up LinkedIn right now in a separate window and get ready to apply these things in real time. That way, long after my annoying voice fades from your ears, you'll still know exactly what to do. And then third and finally, please, please, please do not hesitate to ask questions in the Q&A, to engage in the chat, and most importantly, to volunteer for one of 3 live role plays today. Because if you're selected for those, you will win a free copy of my brand new LinkedIn book, autographed by yours truly and sent to you right afterwards, just for being brave. So with that said, let's start the pop quiz. And the first one I really want to think about, especially in the midst of this kind of tricky moment for tech careers and certain other industries, is how many resumes do you think the average recruiter is juggling in the midst of recession? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? Give me your best guess right in the chat, A, B, or C. So I see Sai says B. Hey, Sai. Kelly says B. Megan says C. Laura says C. Joseph says C. Robert says B. Alex says B. Margaret says C. Minu says B. B's and C's battling it back and forth for supremacy. But to my everlasting sorrow as a former recruiter myself, the reality is that the answer is way up there. And if you don't believe me, just do the math. So SHRM, the largest HR organization in the world, says the average recruiter is juggling 30 to 40 open roles. The average role attracts 250 resumes. As you can see, that's a big burden for any recruiter to carry. So now the next question is, what do they do about it? And specifically, if you were in their shoes and you had 10,000 resumes to get through, how many seconds would you spend reviewing them on average? 6, 25, full 60 seconds? I think what Kelly said less than 6. Kara says A, Magnolia says A, Dean says A. Everyone across William and Mary Nation is nailing it, and you are indeed correct. This is probably the most important stat of this entire session, which is we might spend hundreds of hours crafting the perfect LinkedIn profile or resume, but the recruiter is reduced to a mere impression, a quick instinct, yes or no, in or out. And so, as we go into this session, trying to understand how do we survive these tricky economic times, always recognize that as hard as things are for us right now, they're probably even harder for recruiters. They're trying to find all these needles in the haystack. And so if you can empathize with that pain and that challenge, you will start to figure out exactly what you need to do to get hired. And the first thing you'll realize is no recruiter is going to read 10,000 resumes, even at 6 seconds each. That is way too much time. What every recruiter does these days instead is they say, you know what? I'm not going to read the resumes. I'm going to go right to LinkedIn and I'm going to find the perfect talent. I'm going to search up the person that I need. And the only question is, what are they searching for? Is it A, degree, B, university, or C, for a specific job title? So imagine yourself searching 1 billion profiles on LinkedIn. What would you put in that magic little box? Alex says C, Sharon says C, Dean says C, Joseph says C. Once again, the William and Mary crew is on fire because you are absolutely right. And to prove it to you, let me now take you in the single most important screen on LinkedIn that almost no job seeker has ever seen. Because unlike the free LinkedIn that you and I can use without paying a cent, this is LinkedIn Recruiter, a $10,000 per year per seat tool that is so expensive because LinkedIn basically has a monopoly over the world's professional data. Like, think about that. Even in this age of AI, not Facebook, not Amazon, not Google can touch LinkedIn for how much it knows about every professional in the world, which makes it a goldmine for recruiters. And that's why they always come to this tool to find talent. And so it's incumbent upon ourselves to understand how it works. And as you correctly guessed, it's all about function. I don't need a random William and Mary student or an alum or an MBA or a BA. I need someone who can do a specific job. And so if you have your LinkedIn profile pulled up right now, and I hope that you do, and it has some version of this, student at William and Mary, grad from William and Mary, that's great. That's an amazing launch pad, but it's not sufficient to achieve breakout velocity. Because if you want to be found by recruiters around the world, you've got to make sure that you're giving them exactly what they need, which is a clear signal of where you're headed. And so to help you get there, I would love a couple brave William and Mary volunteers to raise their hand right now, or just chat into the chat if it's easier. Let me know if you'd be willing to be a live volunteer to help find your perfect path. I'll show you a foolproof process and give you an autographed copy of this book, just as a little token of my appreciation. And I see that Cy was first. So Michael, if you don't mind giving Cy the chance to unmute his line, I would love to connect and bring Cy into our first role play. All right, Cy, you've got the power. So great to meet you.
Likewise, I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, awesome. And everyone, please give a ton of William and Mary welcomes to Cy for being such an awesome volunteer. So Cy, tell me this. Are you a student? Are you an alum? Where are you in your career journey?
I'm an alum.
Awesome. And what did you study? When did you graduate? And then where are you right now?
Yeah, so I graduated from William and Mary back in 2020 during the pandemic.
Whoa, okay. Tough time.
Yeah, definitely.
And so since then, have you gone down like a certain road professionally or thinking about different things?
I've actually worked several jobs since I started back in 2020. So I'm currently working as a data scientist in federal contracting.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so you're a data scientist today.
Mhm.
And then the question is, when you think about where you want to be headed, do you just want to double down in that field? Do you want to explore different fields?
I want to double down in the field. I'd like to do something maybe a little bit more technical, like machine learning engineering.
Ooh, okay.
So, yeah.
Now I got to ask you the big question. Have you ever been a machine learning engineer before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So this is the big mistake that so many students and alums make, myself included, which is, we always are focused on the sexiest thing out there. I want to work for Google. I want to work for McKinsey. I want to be a machine learning engineer. We go out there, we actually make it happen, and then we're actually less satisfied because it turns out it wasn't a good fit for us. So Cy, if you want to avoid that fate, who would you want to talk to today to learn about the hot field of ML?
I'd probably want to reach out to some people who are already doing the job.
Exactly, because they know what it's like on the inside.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the world's best machine learning engineers, where do your thoughts immediately turn in terms of alma mater?
William and Mary.
Of course. So one of the things that I never appreciated until I was probably 10 years out of school is that, we focus so much as students on just crossing that stage, getting that piece of parchment. But the reality is the gift that keeps on coming from our university years and years after graduation is the network that we always have with us. And you will always have that, Cy, as a proud William and Mary grad. And so to tap that network, what I want you to do, what I want all your classmates to do, is come to this link in the chat. This is the aforementioned alumni tool that Michael was talking about, where you have access to 80,000 alums that you can search through in any way imaginable. So Cy, what if we start by finding William and Mary folks who are machine learning engineers? How does that sound?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
And I know Kelly loves this too. So for students out there, please do reach out to Kelly because she is your on-campus pro when it comes to all things LinkedIn. Okay, so we've got 40 machine learning engineers. They're at Google, they're in eBay, they're in Mountain View where I am, unsurprisingly, AKA Google Town. And so Cy, when you check out these profiles, Twilio, Apple, Washington Post, do any of them kind of, inspire your curiosity based on the company or the title?
I've met, well, I haven't met them personally, but I'm aware of some of the people here. So I'd probably reach out to them directly.
Okay. Any of these companies in particular? So like Twilio, Apple, Google, Washington Post?
I like LinkedIn. I have a friend that works there and she loves it there.
Ah, okay, very cool. Let's see. Software engineer at LinkedIn. There's Key. Okay, so let's go check out Chi's profile. And what we're going to do here is we're going to figure out, here's Chi, who's gone to William and Mary just like you, gone to work for the company that you want to work for, and is doing that machine learning that you're so excited about. So what button on this screen side do you want to click to strike up a conversation with Chi?
I'd probably hit connect or message.
Yeah. And there's a big difference, it turns out. Even though they take you essentially to the same place, Connect is absolutely free. Why is message a bit of a trap? What's the problem here, Cy?
You have to have LinkedIn Premium?
Right. And Cy, tell me this. You've already invested so much in William and Mary, your energy, your time, your tuition dollars. Do you feel like it's right that you should pay another $50 or $100 a month just to reach out to an alum?
No.
No way. One of the gifts of being an alum is you can come right over here, click connect, add a note, because you already have lots of really personal things to say to Chi. And tell me what those are. What are you going to start with to catch his attention?
I'd probably bring up William and Mary.
Yeah.
In our connection with our connection based on machine learning, or my interest in machine learning in his career.
Okay, so we start with what you have in common. I'm a new William and Mary grad who's passionate about ML. And as such, I was thrilled to come across your profile. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, and just to understand why this is such a great way to open up the conversation, when you were growing up, Si, I know this is going to sound a little crazy, what did your parents tell you about talking to strangers?
Not to talk to strangers.
Exactly, mine too. Paranoid parents are paranoid all around the world. What do you think Chi's parents told him?
Probably something similar.
Exactly. And so now here, Chi is 30 years later. His parents' advice is still ringing in his ears. A stranger is approaching. He's about to click delete on his keyboard. Why doesn't he delete your message?
He sees that we have something in common.
Exactly. You're not a stranger, right? You're a member of the same tribe who shares the same passion. And then just to make things even better, are you going to give him a big elevator pitch, tell him why you're so amazing? Or is there a better way to approach this side?
There's probably a better way to approach it. Maybe just talk to him about talk to him about what he does for a job, and ask him about how he can learn a little bit more.
Right, because this is just like psychology 101 here. What is every human being's favorite topic of conversation, Si?
Themselves.
Yes. And so it's not selfishness so much as we're all different. We all have our different passions. If you give him a chance to share his story, pay it forward, that's catnip to any alum versus let me sell you on something. So I'd love to learn about your experience. And then I know you probably weren't a big marketing guy when you were at William & Mary, but any idea, Si, what all marketing campaigns always end with? A call to
action.
Call to action, CTA, that's what we marketers call it. What is the action you want Chi to take here?
To connect.
Yeah, and so I'll tell you, as a professional marketer, I don't love the idea of like, let's connect, let's stay in touch, because to me, that feels like not a real action. It's kind of like a dead end. What is the actual thing in the world that you want to do with Chi?
Well, I want to talk to him. So would I be asking for like an informational interview?
Yeah, any chance you have, even 10 minutes for a quick Zoom chat, it would mean so much. And then last piece, what's the William & Mary mascot again? What do you guys all call each other? I always forget this.
It's the Griffin, right?
Yeah, I was like, go Griffins, right? You got to always end with like a little bit of that love. I don't know if I spelled it exactly right, but you get the idea. And what you're doing in that is you're basically sealing a deal. You're like, hey, I'm a member of this powerful community that is part of both of our identities. And I'm going to put this in the chat because I love this approach. It is so smart, so powerful. And now the only last question I have for you, Si, is you've got these 10 minutes to pick Chi's brain about ML, LinkedIn. What can you ask him to discover if his path is the right one for you?
I'd ask him, what's his story? How did he get there? What's his first job? What does that job progression look like?
Exactly. So tell me your story. How did you get here? And then I think the most important question of all is just like, what does a day in the life look like, right? Because tell me this, Si, when you think about the things that energize you about your current job as a data scientist and that absolutely demotivate you, what are those two things for you?
The things that excite me are working on new problems, complicated problems.
Yeah.
Things that I'd say totally motivate me is having to go out and collect the data. So if I have to do like a time study or something where I'm sitting down or manually scrubbing data, like that's never fun to do.
Yeah, totally. And so you can imagine if you just get a day in the life, if his average day is spent gathering data, cleaning data, organizing data, that might be realistic, but it's not going to be a good fit for your strengths, right?
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
What if she tells you, the reason I love ML so much is this field is changing every day. Every day there's a new opportunity to try out a new algorithm, a new approach, and basically push the field a little further. And I'm right there at the cutting edge of it. How does that feel to you, Sai?
Exciting.
It's like ding, ding, ding. Not
Yeah.
just exciting, you have now won the career lottery because you have found a match for your unique gifts and a chance to get paid for them out there in the world. And that is worth celebrating. So Sai, speaking of celebrations, I'm sending you a copy of this book and my gratitude because you have absolutely rocked this.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Okay, so everyone, please give a lot of William and Mary love for Sai in the chat. Takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there, but Sai was awesome. Okay, before we move on, I want to see if there are any questions about how do I find the right alum? How do I reach out the right way? How do I build rapport? If you do have those questions, you could put them in the chat. You could raise your hand if you'd rather ask live. Either is totally fine. I want to be really clear. This is a totally safe zone. No one is recruiting or evaluating you or anything else. So if you've ever wanted to know the truth about LinkedIn, know the truth about networking, you have come to the right place. Every question is fair game. Okay, I think that part might feel relatively familiar to a lot of folks. Let's now move on to my next question for you, which is, okay, let's go back to that poor recruiter who's in the midst of maybe a recession or an industry-specific recession. You've got all these people you got to search through, but because it is a recession, you don't have tons and tons of jobs to fill. Maybe you only have one, so you got to be really picky. How are you going to decide who is the best fit for that role? Is it A, the classes they took, B, the keywords on their profile, or C, that GPA they worked so hard at William & Mary to finally earn? And once again, the Griffin team is rolling because Alex says B, Minu says B, Laura says B, Dean says B, Teresa says B, and you are all absolutely correct. LinkedIn is nothing if not a keyword devouring monster. And again, to prove it to you, let me take you into the belly of the beast, inside LinkedIn Recruiter, so you can see exactly how it works. So here I am running my search. I want a project manager. I want them in Chicago. I want them with these skills. And then lo and behold, these are the people who are rising to the top of the LinkedIn lottery, the people I'm going to reach out to with a potential interview opportunity. Like, just pause for a moment and think about that. When has a recruiter come to you with an opportunity versus begging them just to get a chance? That's pretty powerful. And the reason that Emily's at the top of the list and Channing's at the top of the list is one simple pattern. They all have their most important keyword, which is their desired job title, in their most important section, their headline. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Jeremy, how could the headline be the most important section? It's so tiny. Well, its very brevity is the source of its strength, because it turns out that LinkedIn's engineers are on to savvy William and Mary students and alumni gaming the system, stuffing all these keywords into their profile. And so they have given extra weight specifically to the headline in the LinkedIn search algorithm because it's the hardest to game and it's the most authentic. So that is the section we're going to focus on first in the form of a free profile makeover. So if you want to be the next lucky Griffin to get your profile reviewed and get a copy of this book, just raise your hand. And Caitlin, you were on it. So Caitlin, I'm going to ask Michael to give you on the microphone if possible. And I would love to go on this journey together. And everyone, please give Caitlin a lot of love in the chat for being so brave. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hi, thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Thank you for volunteering. I love that. And Caitlin, tell me this. What is the job title that you want to be found for on LinkedIn?
Okay, I have kind of a question for you
Yeah.
because I'll share my LinkedIn in the chat, but I do what's called strategic communication. So I don't know what the title would be because right now I don't have one. It's just, I'm so sorry for the dog. It's
No
just
worries.
strategic communication liaison. So
Okay.
I guess maybe strategic communication manager.
Yeah, absolutely. And so whenever you're in doubt, always come to the source of truth, which is coming right back to LinkedIn and saying, hey, what if I were to search for some of those strategic communication roles and jobs in particular? And you'll start to get a sense, so we have communications and public relations, internal communications, member engagement and communications. Basically, what I encourage you to do is find either the specific roles that you're excited about, or maybe even better yet, the people who have the role that you're excited about, and then reverse engineer it. Say, okay, if I want to be, vice president for global communications, maybe that's the language I've got to use. Does that make sense, Caitlin?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, but for now, let's just say strategic communications more broadly, and then we can finesse it over time. So I'm going to run it as a full search. I'm going to look through these people results and tell me, what do a lot of these people have in common? Like, what does Stephanie have going for her here? What do these other folks have that's helping them really stand out?
They have communication in their
Right.
headline.
Exactly. Headline and their profile. And so with that in mind, Caitlin, I'm going to pull up your profile, which you shared so nicely in the chat, not to criticize it, but to shower it with love. How does that sound?
I'm open to all feedback.
Okay, I love that. And again, everyone, please root Caitlin on, because again, it's very nerve-wracking sometimes to be out there, but it really is such a powerful way to learn. Okay, so Caitlin, based on what we just talked about, why am I so happy with your profile already? What do you have going for you?
A brief headline.
You have a brief headline, which you have to because you are limited to a certain number of characters. But instead of just saying, hey, here's my current job or here's where I've worked, what have you specifically put in there?
Strategic communication.
Exactly. So if I'm a recruiter searching for that job title, I'm going to find you first, which is awesome. But let's be realistic. There are a lot of people in the strategic communication sea. And if you want to be found as one of the very top ones at the top of the list, it can't just be about the job title itself. It also has to be about a secondary set of keywords. Any ideas what those keywords are, Caitlin?
The skills.
The skills, yes, because anyone can claim they're a great strategic communications leader, but who can actually walk the talk? Who's going to make me as the recruiter look good in the interview room versus who's going to get me fired?
Right.
So if you had to guess, Caitlin, what do you think are the most important skill keywords you must master on your profile?
Communication planning, writing and editing.
Yeah, I love it.
Strategy.
And if I were to say, this is great, I think you're probably exactly in the right place, but your career is too important to rely exclusively on guesswork. I want you to build it on a foundation of solid facts. Where could you go on LinkedIn, Caitlin, to find the source of truth right from the recruiters themselves? A place where they're handing you these skills every single day.
The job posting?
Yes. And I know it's kind of a pain in the butt because so often as job seekers, when we look at job postings, our eyes start to glaze over. We lose interest in the job search. Before we know it, we're just giving up entirely. Hiding out inside these roles are the specific things that are going to get us hired. And it's not just the blah, blah, blah at the top about what a great company we are, but it's all the stuff down below about communication channels, audiences, strategies, comms teams, editorial calendars, content creators. That's the stuff that you must crush. So Caitlin, to help you in this tough challenge, what if I were to grant you the superpower of X-ray vision so you could see inside the LinkedIn algorithm and actually understand what your keywords need to be and how you're doing? Would you be interested?
Definitely.
Okay, superpower granted. I've always wanted to do that. So what I'm going to do to thank you for your bravery is I'm going to take you and all of your classmates over to my very favorite site outside of LinkedIn, which is called jobscan.co. Because as much as I love LinkedIn, JobScan will give you the one thing that LinkedIn will never give you, which is the truth. What's really happening when recruiters are searching for your talent. So to simulate the LinkedIn algorithm, I'm going to feed JobScan the same thing that LinkedIn scans a million times a day, which is your profile. And I'm also going to feed it specific roles that might be a good fit for you. And that way you'll start to get a sense of what are the most important keywords and are you nailing them? Does that make sense so far, Caitlin?
Yes.
Okay, so if we were all in the room together, I would have everyone banging on their table right now. But instead, let's do a digital drum roll because we are about to reveal Caitlin's moment of truth, which is, what is her match score? And just to be really clear, every single time LinkedIn runs a search, they're producing a match score between the job that's being searched for and your profile. And so your particular match score here, Caitlin, is actually pretty good, but there's room for it to be even better. Want to know how?
Yes, please.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to scroll on down to the skills section. What JobScan is telling you is, first of all, these are the most important skill keywords, things like corporate comms, reporting, SEO, blogging, journalism, architecture, construction, whatever it might be. And then every time you have a red X, it's saying, I can't find that specific keyword on your profile. Therefore, you're not getting credit. Therefore, your match score is going down. So the big question for you, Caitlin, is of all these red X's, are there any skills listed here that you actually do have?
Yeah, definitely. Corporate comms, reporting, blogging, journalism.
Yeah, I love it. And so what that tells me is that this is going to be really fast and easy because all you have to do is start to get credit for those things. So now back to your profile. Where can we list corporate comms? Where can we list blogging? Where would those go?
Skills.
Skills, absolutely. So if we come down to skills, I can see that you have some good ones here like marketing and content management, but you're actually entitled to 50 skills, which means you have one slot left where you could put in corporate comms and get credit for that. So that's one spot. Besides the skills section, anywhere else you can include those, Caitlin?
In my about area?
Your about area, yeah, absolutely. So if we come over to your about section, what we can do is watch this. I'm going to actually do a simulated edit. Don't worry, I'm not actually changing it. We could just list a specialties section down below that essentially says, hey, let's get credit for everything we just talked about. Corporate communications, blogging, journalism, all of that good stuff. Because if you just list it in your about section, that counts. And to give you an example of what that looks like, if you come over to my profile, you can actually see that I have basically two parts to my about section. I have a section for the human recruiter, all about why I'm a good fit, but I also have a specialty section just for the algorithm, so I get found in the first place. Does that make sense, Caitlin?
Yes.
Okay, Caitlin, you've been an amazing volunteer. I'm so happy to send you a copy of the book, but I do want to give you one little homework assignment. And I don't know if you're an alum or a student, Caitlin, but would you be open for that?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so with my apologies to your amazing William and Mary professors, this may be the most important homework you ever do because this is the homework that is most directly tied into being found for the opportunities that could change your career, maybe even your life. And so if you have a chance while you're watching a William and Mary basketball game, over the winter, go ahead and incorporate these into your profile, the about section, the experience section, the skill section, and you will start to find that now the tables are turned and recruiters are coming to you versus the other way around. Okay, Caitlin?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
That's awesome. Before we go, Caitlin, any final questions? Anything else you're curious about when it comes to LinkedIn profiles?
A very small question. I saw in your about section, you have little icons.
Yeah.
Is there a way to add bullets in there?
Great question. So LinkedIn is weird in that way because you would think a resume type tool would have that built in. It's not built in an obvious way, but here's a sneaky little hack for you. If you paste these in from my site, or even in the chat where I'm pasting them right now, the bullets will paste in too. So you have that nice organization to help out the really stressed out recruiter, okay?
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caitlin. You were awesome. Okay, I want to take a bunch of questions about profiles before we move on, because people usually have questions about like, Jeremy, what about the cover photo or the headshot or the endorsements? And again, it's all fair game. And again, I don't work for LinkedIn anymore, so I'm going to tell you the honest truth. All you've got to do is ask those questions right in the Q&A or raise your hand if you'd prefer to ask them live. So let me go to a couple of questions that I missed before. My apologies. Someone said, how do you stay connected to an alum or connection after that initial chat? I love this question because the reality is the best relationships aren't one shot where you have a chat and then you go off on your own forever, but instead are an ongoing conversation, an ongoing dialogue. The problem is we're all so busy that it's easy to let a new fledgling relationship fall through the cracks. So to prevent that from happening, I highly recommend another tool called followupthen.com, which you can use for free. And basically the way it works is kind of like a digital tickler file, if I'm not dating myself too much. So for example, if I was communicating with Elon Musk over at Tesla, I might say BCC every 1 month at followupthen.com. And just like magic, that same message comes back to my inbox every month so that I have that little nudge. Hey, Jeremy, keep the conversation growing, build that relationship. And I feel like if you can do that with your alumni connections, you're going to get so much more out of it, maybe even a mentor versus just a random chat. Great question. Okay. Joseph says, I've developed pretty comprehensive professional network on Twitter with recent developments at Twitter. Speaking of Elon Musk, I have attempted to find my Twitter network on LinkedIn. However, after several searches, LinkedIn said I was misusing the search. At this time, what's the best way of finding my Twitter network on LinkedIn? Okay, so Joseph, I have to admit, I am not the world's greatest Twitter user. So I don't know what's available today in terms of exporting your network. But here's what I'll tell you. If you can find some way to export your Twitter network with their email addresses attached, there is an advanced tool on LinkedIn that will let you import them immediately. So you come over here to My Network, you scroll on down to this little tool on the left-hand side, because again, the best stuff on LinkedIn is always hidden. Click More Options, and what you're going to do is you're going to import your address books. So for example, if you had imported all of your Twitter contacts into Gmail or Yahoo, you can now send them right to LinkedIn, and it would find a match based on that email address. But that is the best thing I could think of off the top of my head. If you or anyone else has any ideas, please share them in the chat, because that is an awesome question, Joseph. I love that one. Okay, a couple questions in the chat. Laura says, ooh, I'm getting headshots done this evening. Tips, please. Oh, so cool, Laura. Okay, so first of all, you can see that you have that professional photo booth accessible through the Cohen Career Center. Thank you, Kelly. If you want to do a little bit of sort of maybe filters or cropping on the shots after they're taken, another free tool for you that I really like called snapper.com. And even though they have one of those unfortunate sort of .com era names, like they're missing an E in their title, I still recommend them because they're free. And most importantly, they will analyze your LinkedIn profile photo, not just based on, oh, you look good or you look bad, but specifically, what are you saying to the receiver in terms of what that communicates about your friendliness, your level of engagement, your level of collegiality. In other words, all the things that matter to us as recruiters and hiring managers. So check out Snapper for some automatic feedback. Great question. Betsy says, is less detail always better than more? Great question, Betsy. So what I would say is that there's a fine line to walk on LinkedIn, as with most things in life, where it is tempting to go crazy on LinkedIn. I'll be honest about that. You know, we've all been in resume jail for our entire careers, where we had one 8.5 by 11-inch page to stuff our entire life into. Now we come to LinkedIn and we say, oh, I'm going to go crazy with, 3 paragraphs of text for every job I've had. Well, even that might be amazing for the algorithm, because of course the algorithm is all seeing, all reading, all scanning, and it can do it all instantly because of the computer. Think about your friend, the poor recruiter. And if you know that our poor recruiter friend is suffering through profile after profile, resume after resume, make it easy for them to understand the most important things by really condensing stuff into bullets, into tight summaries. So for example, in my about section, this is a good example. You will notice that your about section is typically condensed. You're only going to see about the first 200 characters or so. So what I recognize is the vast majority of human recruiters are never going to click see more. And as a result, I only give them the 2 sentences that speak most highly about my career. Here's who I am and why I can fill their needs. Here's why they can trust me as a rock star to fill this specific role. And I think if you can get to that level of brevity, Betsy, you can have tons of stuff down below for the algorithm, but you're still making it easy for the recruiter to say, hey, I trust you, Betsy. You're organized, you're concise, the exact person I want in an interview room. Great question. Okay, we're going to move on to my final question for you all, and we'll take some more questions at the end. And that question is, dun, da, 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 the most important question of all, which is, at the end of the day, if you were a recruiter in the midst of a recession or mini recession, and you had only 1 interview slot left, because again, slots are tight right now, but you have 3 strong candidates, who's getting that last slot? Is it A, the candidate who applied online, B, the candidate who came in via LinkedIn, or C, the candidate who was referred? And one last time, the entire Griffin Nation, all the tribe, is nailing C. Karen says C, Stacy says C, Laura says C, Minu says C, Alex says C, and you are all absolutely correct. And one last time, let me prove it to you. So this is probably the most important data that has ever been developed about the hiring process. because it's not about things like how firm should your handshake be or what kind of cardstock should your resume be on. It's about who actually gets hired. And what this data shows you is that the vast majority of job seekers around the country are applying in just two ways: career sites like going to google.com, or job boards, going to LinkedIn, going to Indeed. And that makes sense because, they're easy for us, they're easy for everyone. But the problem is they're too easy, because if you look at who gets hired through those channels, those numbers are a lot lower, which should tell you immediately this is a trap. Even though it seems super easy and convenient, it will not help you get to the promised land. Versus this tiny minority of candidates, fewer than 1 in 10 who are being referred, are taking up the vast plurality of the one precious resource that matters most, which is offer letters, actually getting the job. And a great question, Lewis. This is from JobVite, one of the largest applicant tracking systems in the world, one that has a massive incentive to want to have people have career sites and job boards, but even their data cannot tell a lie, which is that referrals are 10 times more effective than just applying online. And so our only question left to answer is, how do you get that referral? So with one last autographed copy of this book on the line, who's going to be our final brave Griffin volunteer? By raising your hand, by chatting in, by coming to the Q&A, wherever you can, send me a smoke signal, let me know your game. And even if you have no idea how to find a referral, I'm going to take you through it step by step and give you a copy of this book just for being awesome. And I have to say, speaking of awesome, Michael saved me so much embarrassment because he mentioned to me in the chat, even though y'all are the Griffins, everyone calls each other, go tribe, go tribe. So obviously when you're sending your messages to alumni, tread carefully. Okay, so it looks like FJ is willing to be our final volunteer. So Michael, if you wouldn't mind giving FJH the microphone, I would love to chat. All right, so FJ, feel free to unmute yourself and welcome to the session, FJ.
Thank you.
Hey, so FJ, I want you to really sort of explain things for people here because, I shared this data and that was nice, but what describes or what explains the discrepancy between applying online and applying via referrals? Why is there such a chasm?
I think it's first and foremost just the idea of it's other people like yourself, right? So if I have a connection to you in my office and you know somebody outside of that office, there's a greater likelihood that myself and that third person will have things in common.
Exactly. So there's that power of relationships, power of identification. And then frankly, there's just a matter of, if you need to make a sort of career altering decision in 6 seconds, are you going to go based on data from a stranger or someone you trust, FJ?
I think we go back to the stranger danger rules. So you go with
exactly, right. Right. Because if you think about it, every resume in some ways brings a certain amount of stranger danger with it, because if you don't know that person, how can you necessarily trust them? So that's the power of the referral. Okay, so FJ, speaking of stranger danger and being really tough, bringing a lot of scrutiny to this, tell me the name of an organization that you might want to work for someday, if only it wasn't so hard to break into.
We'll say American Red Cross, right?
Oh, I love that. Are you already in the nonprofit sector, FJ?
No, I'm not.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you can imagine like, hey, it's going to be a tough one. You're up against all these people who know Red Cross is this huge brand name, kind of the gold standard for charity. Now you got to break in and you want to get that referral. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out who even works at the Red Cross in the first place, because they're a potential pool of referrers. And here's a cool little trick on LinkedIn. Even though we're used to looking at companies on LinkedIn or organizations, one other thing you can do is if you click on the number of employees, you get a company directory that is more detailed than even the one on the Red Cross's servers, so you don't have to hack in, okay, FJ? It's all here for free. And I want everyone to either click into this link in the chat or search for your own dream company on your side to pull up that directory. Okay, but FJ, even though this is a great start, you kind of have the same problem as recruiters do, which you have too much opportunity, too many people to reach out to. How do you want to filter this list, FJ?
So my first thought would be going to connections.
Exactly. So go to connections.
Do I have first or second?
First and second. Okay, awesome. So just to explain this for folks who are a little newer to LinkedIn, first degree is basically people that FJ knows already. And if FJ happens to have some connections, he can go right in there, ask them to refer him, no problem. That's easy peasy. But what does second degree mean, FJ?
Friend of a friend.
Friend of a friend. I love that. Kind of like that old game, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. What is that web of connections that binds us all together? And the beautiful thing about second degree and the beautiful thing about LinkedIn in general is that there's a lot of exponential math that's working for you here, which is that even though I only knew 3 people directly, if I move out 1 degree, I'm up to almost 100. So that's pretty powerful. So FJ, if you want to reach out to someone here like Kelly or Rajesh or Ulysses, would you want to go ahead and reach out directly, or might there be a better strategy?
So I would say, look at the connections listed below their name.
Aha. So let's take Kelly, for instance. We could reach out to Kelly directly, but if anyone out there has been in, sales or marketing or any of those roles, you know that cold email, cold outreach tends to get pretty cold results. In other words, not many responses. But if we reach out to Kevin, who's a mutual connection, and Kevin introduces us to Kelly, now we have a much higher chance of success. Is that right, FJ?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to have the introduction. We're going to get plugged in with Kelly. Now, during that first chat with Kelly, do you want to come in guns blazing and immediately ask for the referral, FJ?
No, I would say lead with why I'm interested. Give them the information so that they can make an intro with context.
Exactly. So you can definitely explain your interest. But again, Len, let's come back to sort of psychology 101 principles. Is Kelly more excited to chat with you about your exploration, or is there something else that Kelly is more excited to talk about?
Probably something else.
Yeah, and I would just go back to some of those things that we had talked about at the very beginning, right? Which is like, hey, just build kind of a relationship based on her and her experience, and that establishes the rapport that's fertile soil for a relationship to bloom from. Okay, so let's say that Kelly gives you a little bit of homework, FJ. What if she says, okay, you want to break into nonprofits? So here's what I want you to do, FJ. I want you to start reading this site called idealist.org, because it's kind of like the central clearinghouse for nonprofit news and resources. I also want to introduce you to someone at the Red Cross who's a little closer to where you are on the East Coast, who might be a great connection for you. So after you've had a chance to read that blog, to make that connection, do you bother to follow up with Kelly, or are you done with her?
Oh, definitely follow up.
And why? Why do you bother to follow up?
Build that connection.
Yeah, because what are you demonstrating every time you follow up with Kelly?
That her helping me, I'm willing to help her as well. I'm willing to make sure I close the loop. I'm also showing that I'm that I'm going to close out what I say I'm going to do, which makes it easier for her to trust to make a reference.
Oh, I love that, because that's exactly what you were saying at the beginning, right, FJ? Which is people want people they can trust. That's what the recruiter wants with the referral. That's what Kelly wants before she can make a referral. And you are demonstrating that you've earned that trust because you were listening, you were paying attention, you took her advice, and you closed the loop. All the things that ultimately would make you a great member of the Red Cross. So now, imagine this, FJ. Imagine it's like April 2023. Your dream job is posted on the Red Cross website. You could apply online and just hope for the best. We know how that goes.
Right.
How do you get into this sort of sacred territory? How do you get to be referred by our friend Kelly?
I would say ask Kelly for an introduction to the hiring manager.
Yeah, I love that. So if she knows them directly, she can make an introduction. Even if she's referring you to someone in a different office on the other side of the country, she can take your resume, put it into the applicant tracking system, and still get credit for the referral, and you rise to the top of the list. And just to be really clear, if you are hired based on Kelly's referral, we know what you get, which is awesome, but what does Kelly get out of it, FJ?
Sometimes there's a hiring bonus, and sometimes it's just getting a connection to another part of the organization where she may not have had as many contacts.
I love it. You nailed it. Because like whether you're incredibly money focused, obviously there are lots of referral bonuses. Even Khan Academy where I work, which is also a nonprofit, we pay $2,500 for every successful referral because it matters that much to bring in awesome talent. And then number two, there's that good karma piece. You just feel great about paying it forward to the next generation, building great relationships. Every professional can identify with that. So the bottom line question is this, FJ. If you have a dream of breaking into a specific organization, whether it's the Red Cross or Google or whatever, should you let that dream be left to chance, or should you give yourself the best odds possible?
Make the connection.
Make the connection. And just like FJ showed you, it can seem intimidating, it can seem ambiguous or scary, but it doesn't have to be if you just treat it as, hey, I'm building a new relationship and I'm growing it over time. And FJ, you did that beautifully. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Happy to help.
Okay, so everyone, please send FJ a ton of love in the chat. FJ is probably going to be teaching this session next time because he rocked it. And now what I would love to do is I would love to close up with two things. Number one, some bonus goodies, courtesy of Michael and Kelly and your whole team at William & Mary. And then number two, answer any questions that are left on your mind. So if you have questions like, Jeremy, should I buy LinkedIn Premium? Jeremy, what do I have to post on LinkedIn or anything else? Please ask them in the Q&A right now, and I'll take those in the order they're received. So get those questions in. Again, all questions are fair game. And just a quick reminder, who knows what the future holds in terms of 2023 and beyond. We're sitting here in February, and it's already been a crazy 2 months. But the bottom line is this. In the last economic recession, the Great Resignation, or not the Great Resignation, the Great Recession of 2008 and beyond, there was a study of who was the most successful out of that time period. And it tended to be people with an internal locus of control. In other words, instead of saying, woe is me, I'm so unlucky to be graduating in a bad economy, or so unlucky to lose my job in a bad economy, they were the ones who said, there are always things that I can do to control my destiny. And really, the key message from this session is not about technology or algorithms or even LinkedIn. It's that you have tremendous power at your fingertips to talk to amazing alumni, to figure out the right path for you, to control your match score, to control whether you're found by recruiters in the first place. And then finally, to get yourself into interview rooms, to give yourself access to the best jobs in the world just by working a little bit harder and a little bit smarter than your average job seeker. And so, to help you get all the way to the promised land, no matter what the future holds, 3 bonus goodies. Number one, I would love to connect with every William & Mary student, every William & Mary alum, every William & Mary staff member who's on the session. Send me a message on LinkedIn because it's great practice if you're new to that. And also, if you want a book, please mention that in your message so I can send it out today. Number two, if you want to get your own LinkedIn profile makeover, I can help with that for free. And then third and finally, as a massive shout out to Michael and to your amazing team, you all have access to the only LinkedIn masterclass in the world designed by former LinkedIn insiders. And by the way, it's not just for 2023, it's for the rest of your career, and it's 100% free just for being a member of the tribe. So check out that link in the chat and go ahead and get access to that tool. And with that said, let me bring it back to Michael. Michael, I know there are a bunch of questions in the chat. Where do you want to start?
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Always engaging, always amazing presenter. We learn so much from you every time. I was taking notes, so I'm sure others were. So thank you all to the volunteers who raised their hands as well and did a terrific job. So really appreciate that as well. A couple questions here. I'm seeing here, how accurate are the salary ranges in job posts these days, or as well as a tool for negotiating?
Yeah, such a great question. So when you look at these job posts, occasionally you will see that job range listed right here. What I would tell you is that it often depends on whether that job range is being generated by LinkedIn or being listed by the company. I'll explain why. If it's being generated by LinkedIn, chances are it might be a little bit fuzzy because LinkedIn's pulling in some data science and try to imagine what it might be. However, if it's being listed by the company, you can be sure that it's going to be correct because many companies in many states are now legally responsible for listing their actual salary ranges. For example, in California, where I'm based, any company that I believe is bigger than 100 employees or so, including Khan Academy, must list the actual salary range or pay a fine if we do not. So I would say if you're getting it directly from the company, you can pretty much trust it because it's backed up by legislation. Great question.
Great. Do you think there is a unique LinkedIn strategy for executives, VP, C-level professionals?
Yeah, oh, deep. This is such a good question because sometimes you might say, hey, Jeremy, a lot of these roles are kind of like middle manager. I'm more thinking about the C-suite. Well, think about who fills the roles in the C-suite deep. It's not just a random recruiting team, it's executive recruiters, it's headhunters. And what is the favorite tool of any headhunter in 2023? It's LinkedIn. Because even if you're sitting at home in your pajamas, you now have access to the entire world's professional talent, and you can pick and choose the perfect people to bring in for interviews. So
I would also add that
go for it, Michael.
the branding probably too for your
Yes.
company as a C-level
Yes.
executive, what you're providing for recruitment for your team, your managers on your team to help build the pipeline there is terrific too for your engagement on LinkedIn.
Yeah, totally. So what I would say there is like absolutely everything we said times 10, because you know that the recruiters, the headhunters are prowling specifically for your talent.
Awesome. So one more question here. If you are working for your dream art organization already, is it important in your mind to keep up with LinkedIn?
Yeah. So here's the deal, Minu. I want to be really clear that I see LinkedIn as a tool, not a lifestyle or an all-consuming habit, the way that Facebook and TikTok and Instagram have become. If you are super satisfied in your job and you are getting all the value and all the meaning out of it that you want, I wouldn't spend a second on LinkedIn, let alone a cent. Because I would say, look, life is short. Spend your time in wise ways that align with your goals and your own values. And if you're already getting that, you're golden. But I will mention that if you are in an organization and it feels pretty good, but you're kind of like, well, maybe someday I want to advocate for a promotion or a raise, or I want to try a new path. Being plugged in on LinkedIn never hurts because it gives you the access to leverage, to offers, to data that can help you make the case that you're ready for that promotion, you're ready for that raise, or you're ready for that new opportunity. So if you're truly happy, I am so happy for you, Minu, because I think that is the goal of life in general. Find ways to contribute meaningfully in society, make yourself happy in the process. But if there's anything that you want to achieve that's not there yet, LinkedIn can often help as a tool in that process. What are your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything. I would also add that as someone that's a leader in your field that you're happy in, to recruit others to that field and to show and demonstrate what's so great about it. Why is it so much of already, passionate finding that you've been able to accomplish? To share that with others will inspire others on LinkedIn to learn about the field, to learn about how to get more engaged, and to be that person that responds to the call from somebody interested in your field. So you can be a mentor, an advisor to somebody by being on LinkedIn in a happy environment. I would also say, I'm sure there were people in many of these tech companies that felt like they were in the dream jobs and unfortunately had major layoffs unexpectedly, especially in the earlier ones that started. So I think you never know. And so having the sort of structure of today's lessons that we were to be on top of that is really probably a strong foundation to have.
Love that.
And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Kelly because we are near that final end of this hour. And I know she has a few closing remarks to share, but thank you, Jeremy, for all your advice.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks to all the volunteers. You all rocked it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Jeremy, not just today for sharing all of your insights, but for taking the opportunity to really work one-on-one with some of our participants and for taking the time to create this session for us today. Michael and I have both shared several links in the chat for resources for our current students and alumni and faculty and staff who are participating. That includes links to your course. It includes links to our pages that have some complementary tools, but also notes on what Jeremy was sharing today. Many of the same notes are on our website, which is great that you can have that as a follow-up cue for yourself. But also a link to our brand new professional photo booth that is active in the Career Center, and it's available to students, faculty, staff, and alumni when you're on campus. And it allows you to set filters and clean up your hairlines or teeth or anything you'd like and email yourself the picture. So we have that available in our atrium. And so to all the participants on today's webinar, I want to thank you for taking the time to participate today, but also congratulate you on taking this step for your own professional development and strengthening your LinkedIn profiles and the activity that you have on LinkedIn. There were a couple of remaining questions, and we'll get those to Jeremy and include those in the follow-up email within the next week or so. As Michael mentioned in the beginning of this session and throughout the week, we are incorporating the NACE career competencies, and today's focus was really on technology, critical thinking, and communication. You can find a full list of the competency connections on the Learning Objectives page of the Professional Development Week website, as well as links to it in our follow-up messaging that you'll receive. When today's webinar closes, you'll have access to just a quick survey asking about your thoughts on today's session, and you'll receive that again in a message within the next day or two. But what I really want you to do is take Jeremy's advice and take some time for yourself right now after you've gone through your notes and jot down what is something new you learned today, and give yourself 1 to 3 action steps that you're actually going to take for yourself after learning from Jeremy. Tomorrow, we have a great panel of HR professionals who will discuss navigating your career in today's changing economy. And they all work in different aspects and levels of HR, as well as a workshop in the afternoon on a values-based job search. You can still register to attend each of those and receive the Zoom link when you register. Also, you can access the full schedule for the rest of the week. I want you to take special attention to the final event of the week, which is an online open networking hour, where you can take all the tips and tricks that you've learned throughout the week and connect one-on-one with other members of the William & Mary community. So don't forget to register for that as well. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your week.